Hello, everybody. This is Scoots coaching the Double Spoons Army,
And I'm Firebolt, coaching the Minnesota Magikarps.
and we are going to be discussing the Division 2 teams and giving our takes on what good strategies those teams can have and what they're probably going to be trying to do for the beginning of the season. The first team we'll be discussing is Spood coaching the Southtown Sandslashers. His big player is Melmetal.
Yeah, that's his tier 1. And Melmetal is such a new Pokemon. The cool thing about the new seasons every single year is going to be what new Pokemon came out. Melmetal was actually one of the very first Gen 8 Pokemon that came out, so he's a little bit more well known than maybe some of the other ones.
I actually didn't know much about him because I haven't seen him in any of the games yet. I know he was in Let's Go, and they've been doing like a Pokemon Go event, but I haven't really seen him in any of the main games yet.
Yeah, I actually don't know if you can catch him normally in like a mainline game. I think it might be like a Pokemon Go only thing, and then you can transfer him to the actual games.
Yeah. So I didn't really know what he really did until I started looking at him in the draft, and he's just hit super hard, and he's got this. He has a signature metal type move that like hits twice, so it's really good. And he's got base 143 attack, so if you slap a choice band on this thing, it's gonna hit everything that doesn't resist steel.
And I mean, it's base 143 attack and 143 defense, so it's also very physically defensive. The only thing you're going to really be able to do with it against it is going to be attack it with a special attack. It's got kind of a low special defense, and obviously steel typing weaknesses like fire and stuff like that.
Yeah, special defense is definitely its main weakness, and I think as we go through Spood's team, we might be seeing that might be one of the major weaknesses of this team. Well, I'm not seeing a ton of special defense bulk on Spood's team.
Well, and the other thing is that there's a distinct lack of water, rock, ground, and fighting on Spood's team, which, if you're losing water, rock, and ground, you're also kind of leaving yourself open to fire.
Yeah, Melmetal and Tangrowth are his tier 1 and tier 2 picks. They're good Pokemon by themselves, but without support against fire types, they can definitely struggle. And Spood's team doesn't really have that support. His only fire type resistances are fire type Pokemon themselves, which it's not like you're countering fire, you're just adding more fire.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that some fire types come out with like flash fire, so they just would absorb the fire attacks, but Incineroar and Talonflame don't have that. So that's one thing that Spood's gonna have to look at is well, if I'm gonna cover a fire type, hopefully it'll be a dual typing that he can look at. Maybe this fire type has a secondary type that I can
and take advantage of the other type.
Right. Yep.
He does have one special defense tank on his team, Regice, which I think he brought against Cabral last week.
Yeah, Regice is hugely special defensive.
But the problem is it's weak to fire. So.
Right. And again, it has absolutely no attack whatsoever. It's going to be defensive, but it wouldn't be able to do much to a fire type.
So we've talked a lot about the negative side of Spood's team, which I think might be fairly obvious now. But let's talk about some of his strengths. I think the Pincurchin and Alola Raichu, they work so well together.
Yeah, I like just having a terrain setter that can just come out and do that.
And Alolan Raichu's ability makes him almost the fastest Pokemon in the game when electric terrain's on the field. Surge Surfer. I think it doubles his speed in electric terrain.
Yeah, it doubles the speed, and then
and I'm guessing it gets Rising Voltage. That move doubles its power in electric terrain, so it's like a super strong electric type move.
Yes, yep.
Added on to the fact that electric terrain will boost the power of electric type moves just generally. All of that combined just makes Alolan Raichu like a massive threat when you have a dedicated electric surge setter.
And a very high special attacker as well. I mean, Alolan Raichu is really kind of a glass cannon.
And I know Spood's last draft pick was Porygon Z. And the idea behind this was he wanted a Trick Room setter. Because Melmetal has base 30 speed, so it's never going to be outspeeding anything unless it has to the speed control. So I think you'll see against some teams that rely heavily on speed that Spood will probably be bringing Porygon Z as a support to Melmetal to just let him sweep through teams without any challenge.
Yeah, that'll be a big help when a lot of his bulky Pokemon are also pretty slow as well. Now, on the opposite side of that, there's Talonflame. And Talonflame is one of his fastest Pokemon. Actually, it is his fastest Pokemon.
Unboosted, it's definitely his fastest. It's also a fairly strong physical attacker, which Spood does have a decent balance between attack and special attack. He's got Alolan Raichu and Porygon Z, and who else? I guess Regice has special attack power. But I think physical attack is definitely what you want to prepare for against Spood. Just the Melmetal and the Incineroar. They're just
overall, it's a very physical team.
I'm interested to see if he uses Drifblim much this season.
I actually didn't know that Drifblim had such high HP.
Super good HP. Not good special defense, though.
Right.
Or defense, I guess. His defense is also really low.
Yeah, it's kind of like...
it kind of makes up for it.
Yeah, it's kind of like high HP, but, it's not very defensive.
Morpeko? Is that how you say that?
Yeah, Morpeko, yeah.
There's a voice in my head telling me that Morpeko is very good as a utility Pokemon. It gets Rapid Spin. And it also gets Parting Shot. So, I think it can be used for trickier stuff. Like
it could definitely be kind of like a bait and switch type Pokemon.
I think the only Pokemon we haven't talked about yet on this team is Slurpuff. It's Spood's only Fairy type, so I'm sure we'll see some use out of it if he's going against certain teams that are weak against Fairy.
I guess the one thing good about Slurpuff is that it's pretty consistent stat-wise across the board. Everything in the 70s and 80s. So at the very least, it's not weak in one area.
Yeah. I think I had Slurpuff on one of my drafts. I'm not sure, though. It seems familiar. Or maybe I brought it to a random tournament sometime. But I think I liked it when I had it. So yeah, that's Spood's team.
All right. Well, the next team we're going to talk about is coached by Cabral, and it's the Slinging Aegislashers.
Yeah, this is definitely a rain team. I've worked with Cabral in team building with this team, so I know the general ideas that this team is going for.
Well, the tier 1 is Pelipper, so with Drizzle, it's going to come out and then immediately set rain.
Yep, Pelipper is one of my favorites. I was also a rain team back in season 2, and that was when Mega Swampert was allowed.
Yeah.
And it tore through teams that didn't have water or ground checks, or if it didn't get surprised by like a grass knot. Like, it was definitely hard to deal with Mega Swampert. So water can be really powerful. It's also a really good type just by itself. I think that's why rain teams are so popular.
Now, speaking of Mega Swampert, Cabral got Seismitoad with this draft, which, I mean, can kind of fill the same spot there. It's also got Swift Swim and it's water ground typing. So I think Seismitoad's going to be a huge threat on this team with rain.
Yeah. Seismitoad's like the poor man's Swampert. Because he's got the Swift Swim, he's got the water ground typing, but he obviously doesn't hit quite as hard. But you can invest like an Adamant Nature, because when rain is up, you're gonna outspeed pretty much everything no matter what.
Right.
So Pokemon with Swift Swim automatically kind of get able to invest even more in attack than most sweepers, which makes them stronger. Plus the rain will always boost your stab water type moves even more.
And it's also not his only Swift Swimmer. He's also got Barraskewda, which again will benefit from the rain.
Yeah.
Overall,
it's
full
a bit
water
harder
types on this team.
Yep, he drafted Vaporeon, which I know he likes very much.
Yes.
Vaporeon is one of his favorites, so I'm not surprised there. I wonder how much use he'll get out of Vaporeon. It's got Hydration, which, if I'm remembering correctly, that's the ability that gets rid of status effects while it's raining.
And,
so,
I mean, Vaporeon, just in general, is such a bulky Pokemon, high HP, high special defense.
I think like a Wish Vaporeon set to support teams definitely work here.
Definitely got a couple of priority moves on this team. You know, they got Hitmontop, and like just as a priority fighter type, it's going to be very, very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gets Technician too, which boosts. If you're gonna run Mach Punch, it'll boost the power of Mach Punch even more.
Right.
He has a lot of priority on his team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Barraskewda gets Aqua Jet, which is really good, although it'll probably be outspeeding most things anyway. But it's always good to have a little more priority. He's got a lot of hazard removal. He's got Defog on 3 Pokemon, Rapid Spin on 3 Pokemon. So no matter what he brings, he'll always have a way to get rid of status, or get rid of hazards. A problem I do see is that he only has one Stealth Rock setter, or one hazard setter at all, and it's Stealth Rock for Seismitoad. But I'm guessing he's going to want to bring Seismitoad most games because it just fits well.
Well, and also if you're using like Defog to get rid of hazards, then you're going to be getting rid of your own as well.
So he probably won't be relying on hazards too much here.
Right.
He's got Rotom Heat and Turtonator for fire types, which you would think might not be great for a rain team, because how are you going to use fire type moves very well in the rain? They're going to be super weak. But an idea that me and Cabral were coming up with, and he might use in the future, is that against teams that do well in the rain, he can actually bring Sun instead to surprise them. Because Rotom Heat and Turtonator both can learn Sunny Day, and they are both pretty powerful special attackers. So if you boost up their fire type moves, and your opponent only brings Pokemon that do well against water, they could be in for a rude surprise.
Yeah, that makes sense. Rotom Heat, you know, is also just very, very defensive. So, like with its special attack raised, it's also going to be hard to take it down.
Yep, it's got good utility and stuff like Volt Switch. It gets Will-O-Wisp, so it can definitely run some bulkier sets to stay alive and just spread status and give your opponent some, or give yourself some momentum. And Cabral commented on this, but he's got a lot of Pokemon that learn knockoff too. Tornadus can learn it. Seismitoad, Pelipper, and Delphamuse, which we haven't really talked about much yet. I actually drafted Delphamuse once, but I don't really know what he does. I never really brought him. I could never find a spot on my team for him. I know he's really strong in physical attack.
Well, he's a decent grass type, and I believe he's got a signature move, Anchor Shot, right? Okay, so yeah, Anchor Shot is a steel typing move, but it prevents the target from switching out. Like he's also got Steelworker on, so even though he's not steel typing, all of his attacking stats are multiplied by 1.5 if you're using a steel type attack, which is why Anchor Shot's his kind of go-to move.
It pretty much makes him have a third stab move.
Yeah.
Or third stab typing. That's pretty cool.
Also, we haven't really talked about his tier 2 pick yet, which is Aegislash. And Aegislash is a very, very
he's been banned from OU before.
It's
really good.
It's very, very just like, well, you can switch it between defensive and heavy attack. Apparently, its attack stats got reduced.
Yeah, so he is a little weaker in attacking power, which definitely would hurt it a little bit. Doesn't make him like one of the most strong attackers in the game anymore without boosts. He can still be a threat, for sure, and Steel Ghost is a pretty good type. So definitely watch out for that Pokemon. And in the rain, it's not going to be worrying about fire type moves. So
right.
Also,
yeah.
It does synergize pretty well with rain teams.
I think the only thing we haven't talked about right now is that he has type Null in the back. It's kind of, it's one of those things that's like,
it's a normal type. I guess you can use it as bulky Evioliter because it'll only have its fighting weakness. So it's pretty good as a defensive pivot.
I never understood normal types just because they only have weaknesses. It's not strong against anything.
They only have weaknesses, but they also only have one. They only have one weakness, which is fighting.
Well, and then they also do like half damage to steel and rock.
Yeah, but in general, I think normal's usually better as a defensive type, in my personal experience. Pokemon like Snorlax, they're obviously more defensively oriented because they don't really have to worry about getting hit by surprise super effective attacks.
Right.
They can kind of do their own thing and set up. So in that sense, Silvally, or Type Null, can probably do some defensive stuff. Apparently it gets Parting Shot and Iron Defense, so it can just set up. I don't know if it gets recovering moves, though, which could make it a little tough. But I'm sure there's some ways to use Type Null. So yeah, that's Cabral's team. Very rain-focused. Oh, I don't think we talked about Tornadus very much, but it is very good in the rain. It gets Hurricane, which has it's a really strong flying type move, and has 100% accuracy in the rain. It's like the flying equivalent of Thunder.
Yeah, it's with a rain team going, it's definitely going to be used a lot. Tornadus is cool because as a flying type, his special attack and just physical attack are both really high.
Yeah, it is strong. Like I think a Life Orb set would be pretty nice. Give it some coverage moves. Maybe even run like a mixed attacking set to deal with physical and special balls. It's just a pretty solid Pokemon, and it's just better in the rain. Rain is usually good against other weather because water is usually going to be doing super effective to sandstorm teams because they'll be running a lot of rock and ground. And then they'll also do pretty well against sunny day because water beats fire. So as long as Cabral is smart about how he uses his rain setters, doesn't get Pelipper killed early, I think he has pretty good options against other weather teams. I think we will check out the next team now. And this team is coached by Aurora. It's the Hoensbroek Haunters. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Her first pick is Pheromosa. super strong bug fighting type. It gets the amazing ability Beast Boost.
And very fast as well. So we know that at the very least, if you don't bring something that can maybe hit it with a priority move, it's gonna really be a strong pick.
Yeah, amazing speed. 151. I can't really think of any Pokemon off the top of my head that are faster than it. Besides, is Esceligor faster? I'm not even sure he's faster. I guess Regieleki is faster. In general, it's gonna be outspeeding pretty much everything that's not Choice Scarf. And if it can knock out a Pokemon, its attacking stats will get even stronger, which means it'll make it even harder to survive. So it can definitely steamroll opponents who aren't bringing checks to it. I would probably advise to bring multiple checks to Pheromosa. It's super frail though.
Yeah, it's only got 37.
Defense.
Yeah, it's only got 37 base defense and special defense. So at the very least, like I said, if you can get a priority move off against it, if it's super effective, you might be able to just kill it like that.
And going along with this hyper offense, her second pick is Victini. Psychic Fire, base 100 stats, but it gets one of the best moves in the game, V-Create.
And obviously V-Create will lower your speed and special defense and regular defense, but it just keeps on attacking at a very high rate. So if you put a Choice Band on it, then...
Or Choice Specs, Choice Scarf.
Choice Scarf, right.
Pretty well, if your opponents can outspeed it. But I think because V-Create does drop your speed, right?
Yes, so, it does drop your speed.
Yeah, I think Choice Band is probably a better idea there, just so you can keep spamming V-Create against Pokemon if they're not as fast as you. I don't know what else Victini does, but it doesn't really need to do more.
Well, Victory Star is its ability, so it has increased accuracy. It just it's 1.1 times accuracy.
It gets some electric coverage, I think. It also gets coverage for water types too. It can get Grass Knot and Energy Ball. So, say you want to switch in a Seismitoad to this thing, you might have to think twice. Even though it's probably going to be running physical, if you're hitting something that's 2 times or 4 times weak to Grass, it's gonna definitely hit hard. Definitely an offensive powerhouse. Her first 2 picks are super offensive oriented, which I think is her strategy in this draft so far anyway.
Now, one of her tier 3 picks is Porygon 2, but I'm not 100% sure what the strategy with Porygon 2 is.
So it's super bulky when you put an Eviolite on it. Even without an Eviolite, it's fairly bulky. And then with the Eviolite, it's ridiculous. It used to get Toxic. I don't know if it does in Gen 8 because they got rid of Toxic as a TM. But I used to like running Porygon 2 a lot. Normal type makes it really good as a defensive typing. It gets a lot of coverage moves. Thunderbolt, Ice Beam. It gets Tri-Attack, and it also gets Recover. So any move that's not doing a lot to it, it can just heal back up and then chip at your opponents over time with Ice Beam, Tri-Attack, Thunderbolt. So yeah, it's bulky. Definitely more of a pivot Pokemon. Her team probably needed a little more bulk after Victini and Pheromosa.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Her 4th draft was Slowbro. It's also bulky, and I think its most popular ability used is Regenerator, which heals it every time it switches out. So it's really hard to kill. Decent special attack.
Now, as far as switching out goes, does Slowbro get an attack that will switch it out, like a U-turn or a flip turn?
It doesn't get flip turn, but just being able to switch out and heal itself is really nice. It's just a really good ability in general because you can always save it for another time that you'll need it in the battle.
Yeah.
You can let it get really low, and then bring it back, and it'll have a decent amount of HP to hit, tank up more attacks.
And obviously it doubles as a psychic type. I don't know if it gets very many strong psychic attacks, but plus it's more of a special attack. Because it's more of a special attacker, psychic would be a better fit for it.
It can get toxic from other generations, so I think it can run toxic.
Yeah, it can use toxic, yeah.
Okay. So it's probably going to be running toxic a lot and just kind of stalling Pokemon out. It can recover, I think, or some form of recovery. So it can be a threat if you don't have Pokemon to do at least decent damage to it. But it does have a decent amount of weaknesses. So grass, electric, dark, ghost,
right,
bug. It's got at least 5 off the top of my head. So if you have those stab moves, probably good to bring. She's covering her type advantage pretty well. No electric resist yet. And her next Pokemon doesn't have electric resist either. Crobat is super fast. It gets Infiltrator, so it can deal with Substitute pretty well.
But yeah, again, Poison Flying would make it weak to an electric type.
So that's 2 electric weaknesses and 3 normal resist, so no resist yet. Frostlass is fairly speedy. I don't know exactly what it does. I know it's pretty good on ice teams. Yeah. I think this draft is more for type coverage than anything.
Right.
It's her only ice and ghost type. So I think probably will only be bringing it if she needs ice or ghost. Zarude.
Now, Zarude's very new. Like, very, very new.
Yes, I think I just got my email to pick him up today.
So I'm not 100% sure what its abilities are.
It says his ability is Leaf Guard.
Again, it's probably more for typing and getting that coverage.
Yeah, it's a good grass type. Fairly offensive. Zygarde, 10%. Pretty good.
It's a ground type, at least.
Yes. So, she has a couple electric resists now. Zarude is a good electric resist, and Zygarde is. So, starting to cover the electric problem. Archeops, Flying Rock, really fast. Or is it fast? It's pretty fast, and it has super good attack. So, I'm surprised that's a tier 5.
Now, Defeatist is interesting because it's kind of an ability that hurts you more than it helps you. Because if you're at half or less max HP, then your attack and special attack are just halves. So once it goes down below half, it's almost completely useless.
Yeah, I can see. Now I'm starting to see the downside of this Pokemon. Its typing makes it so it can be weak to a lot of different stuff. Rock isn't very good as a defensive typing because it's weak to water, fighting, ground. Well, I guess ground is covered by the flying. The flying is weak to electric, ice, rock. So it has a lot of weaknesses. So it can definitely be chipped down to below half. It's weak to stealth rock. So after 2 switch-ins, it's already going to have Defeatist.
Yeah.
If your team is stealth rock, so it can be rough for sure. But it's definitely probably going to be a threat to watch out for if you're not prepared for it, because that 140 attack is really good. Diancie gets good bulk, I think.
I mean, yeah, it's got a huge amount of special defense and regular defense at base 150, and its attacks are up at 100 as well. So it's very bulky, and it hits very hard as well.
Yeah. A Rotom fan, it's electric flying, so It's Rotom. It does utility stuff. It can run special attack movesets, or it can run like Will-O-Wisp.
I find it funny that Rotom Fan is a flying type, and its only ability that it gets is Levitate.
I never thought about that. Yeah. It is kind of a waste of an ability.
Well, and I think the problem there is that Levitate's just Rotom's ability for whatever form it goes into, and this one just happens to be redundant.
So overall, I think Aurora's team has really good typing coverage. She covered her electric weakness later in the draft.
Yeah,
I was going to say that Psychic could be a problem, but she has Zarude, and she has other Psychic types to resist Psychic. So
this is also one of the faster teams that we've covered so far.
Yeah, I would say this is the most hyperly offensive focused, just from her tier 1 and 2 picks, and some of her tier 5, tier 4s. She has a lot of super fast attackers, but also some bulky pivots in Porygon and Slowbro.
Yeah.
So pretty good balance here. We've got Stealth Rock, Spikes. She has Defog support, Rapid Spin. She has a lot of priority with Ice Shard on Frostlass, Extreme Speed on Zygarde. Her only knockoff Pokemon is Archeops, so you might be able to hold on to your items a little more. I'd say this team is definitely one to watch out for. Not a lot of obvious weaknesses, just from a draft perspective.
Well, yeah, like we said, very good coverage overall as far as typing goes. So our next team that we're going to be covering is the Loafville Lanturns, coached by White Loaf.
Yes, and right off the top here, I'm seeing Zygarde, who also just got banned to Ubers, I think. It's a really strong ground dragon type. So quad weak to ice, but gets a lot of bulk. I think it gets ground type moves that can hit flying types. So really strong tier 1 pick, just overall.
And with the tier 2 pick, you got Blacephalon, so it's another Ultra Beast, gets Beast Boost, and again has very high attack, special attack.
Yep, the Ultra Beasts are definitely threats to look out for. Fire Ghost, really good offensive typing. Ghost might be my favorite offensive typing, and then Fire's really good as well. Can't really take a hit, but can definitely do damage.
And overall for this team, I'm seeing a lot of steel, just with 4 steel typing. So you have Bisharp, Stakataka, Bronzong, and Escavalier.
Yeah, a lot of steel. So when you see a type a lot, you have to look for checks to their weaknesses. So the first one I'd start with is ground. What does you have against ground types? Bronzong can get Levitate, so that can help. Vikavolt also gets Levitate, so even though it's an electric type, it can check ground types. Escavalier is Steel Bug, so it's actually not weak to ground, just regular. And he has Aerodactyl as a flying type. So a lot of ground resists and immunities on this team already. Fire types could be a problem.
Yeah, something like Aerodactyl with Rock, in even Stakataka with the steel typing would only take neutral damage from fire because of its rock typing. Of course Zygarde being ground would be a big hindrance to fire as well.
Yeah, Zygarde's definitely his best option against
especially
fire.
Since Dragon resists fire as well, so it would do super effective damage against it and also be resistant to it.
Yep, so it's going to be very risky bringing fire types against White Loaf's team due to Zygarde being his tier 1 pick. Other weaknesses to steel, fighting is pretty good against this team. I'd have to say.
Yeah.
Although he has Blacephalon, or Blace... What do you say that?
Blacephalon?
Blacephalon. Because Blacephalon is immune to fighting, which is good. But fighting types can also bring dark type moves a lot. Like knockoff.
Yeah.
So I'd have to worry about that.
But yeah, not only does fighting affect steel, but it's also the only thing that's super effective against normal type, and he's bringing Miltank as well. Or he drafted Miltank, which is very bulky.
And it gets thick fat as well.
Right, but thick fat wouldn't help it against fighting moves, though.
No, I was thinking more against fire.
Right.
I forgot. It can also bring Sapsiver, which I liked. I think I had Miltank on my rain team, and I like to bring it to deal with grass types sometimes.
Yeah.
Other Pokemon we haven't mentioned yet. Indeedee, male. I think it's more of a hazard setter, like screens. Can probably do a lot of support stuff. And Dusclops, super bulky because you can give it an Eviolite. It gets Pain Split. I think it gets Will-O-Wisp. Oh, Indeedee can set up Psychic Train because it gets Psychic Surge.
Yep.
Which can synergize well with this team. Well, kind of. It gets yeah. Train's always good to have. Because you can fight your opponent's train if they have it. So it's really good support.
And I mean, overall, looking at the team, you can tell that there's a bunch of it that's really slow. A couple of different, there's exceptions to that, but a lot of this team's really slow.
Yep, it's true. I'm guessing Indeedee gets Trick Room as well, so there's definitely ways to use Trick Room on this team. Unfortunately, the little things in the bottom here, they give you all the utility stuff. I don't think they tell you about Trick Room. So you can't see just from this page if your opponent has Trick Room or not. Which would be nice to know. But yeah, I think his team covers types really well. Even though he has 4 steel types, he's got ways to deal with Pokemon that can hit steel types hard.
Right.
Good offensive coverage. Pretty slow in some ways, but has some fast attackers too. Aerodactyl's really good as a special, or as a late game speed sweeper. So this team has a lot of options, I think. So I think we'll go on to the next team now. This team is coached by Retsack, the Hartford Honchkrows. This is Jason, right?
Yes, yep.
Okay. This is Jason coaching the Hartford Honchkrows. So his tier 1 draft is Urshifu.
Now, single strike means that it took the dark typing, not the water typing.
Yes. Which, in my opinion, I like the single strike a little more because of its ability. Or not its ability, but its signature move. It's a dark type move that always crits. So it's really good at breaking through Pokemon who try and set up defense on you. Like defensive stat boosts. Because crits will always go through stat boosts. So it's one of the best wall breakers. And dark fighting is, I think, a really good typing.
Well, and it also, in addition to that, it's got Unseen Fist, so it hits through protection. So
yeah, there's almost no way to stop him.
Not only will you always crit, but you'll also hit through shield and subs and stuff like that.
So yeah, Urshifu, strong physical attacker. He's one of the best wall breakers in the game. So defensively oriented teams will definitely have to worry about him.
And this is mainly a pretty bulky, high attack team in general. It's got a lot of just really heavy hitters.
Yep. Thunderous is his tier 2, super heavy hitter. Electric flying, 145 special attack power base. So, and it's got 101 speed, so pretty average to slightly above average speed.
And a flying type with Volt Absorb is going to be huge because that's one of its major weaknesses.
Yep, and the flying type covers the ground weakness to electric.
Yep.
So really good typing, really good stats. Just a really good Pokemon in general. Super good offensive. Buzzwole.
Yeah, another upgrade.
That's the same typing as Pheromosa.
Yep. This one's definitely a lot more physical attack based.
Yep. A little more bulkier too.
Yeah.
Trades out for speed though, not as fast.
You know, with its attack already as high as it is, it can get really, really overpowered really quickly.
Yeah, for sure. So looking at those types, his first 3 types, not a ton of shared weaknesses there. He's got 2 fighting types, but one of them is dark, so don't have to worry about psychic. Flying. Buzzwole's 4 times weak to flying. And Urshifu's weak to flying, so that could be a little problem. But he has Thunderous to deal with most flying types, probably. And then his other Pokemon, Moltres, good. Another flying type. Oh, I was gonna say, Rock could be a problem.
Well, and also, I mean, with a lot of flying types, it's not as big of a deal. But he's got 3 poison types as well, which are all going to be weak to ground.
Yep.
So again, the flying types do kind of balance that out a bit. But Salazzle would be 4 times weak to ground.
Yeah, 3 poison types. All in tier 4. Nidoking can get toxic spikes. Can definitely be good for some teams. But 3 poison types. Definitely have to worry about Psychic here. With the focus on fighting types, the focus on poison. He has Umbreon.
Yeah, Umbreon would definitely be his counter to that weakness.
Yeah. And if toxic spikes are up, it can definitely stall teams out.
Also took Duraludon, Steel Dragon typing.
Yep, very good typing. And then his last 2 tier 5s are Frostmoth and Wailord. Wailord, super tanky. 170 HP.
Yeah, that's just insane. And like, again, with something that has that high HP, it does not have very much defense.
Yeah, they have to balance it out somehow.
Right.
But yeah, good water type. I think he drafted it mainly because he wanted a water type.
Yeah, it's the one thing that definitely is absent for most of the team here. So it was probably a coverage pick at the end.
Yep. Same with Frostmoth. Good ice coverage. Ice is always a nice type to have.
Yes, the ice is nice.
That's why I drafted my Glaster. We'll see if I get to use them much. I think we can go to the next team now.
Yeah. Next up is the Nevadan Ninetales, coached by Skittles.
And he started off his draft with Celesteela, another Ultra Beast.
And Celesteela is one of the more well used. I see it a lot.
Yeah. It gets a lot of neat attacks. I've seen Leech Seed a lot. It can definitely set up some bulk. Be really tough to kill. Steel Flying is usually a really good typing because Flying gets rid of the steel weakness of ground and fighting. So there's only a few types that it's weak to: electric, fire.
His tier 2 pick is Suicune.
Yeah, immediately went for the fire resist. Another bulky Pokemon. Suicune is very infamous in this league. It's been used a lot with Rest, Calm Mind. It can just become unkillable if left unchecked.
Yeah, it's something you got to take down pretty quickly, and it's very, very defensive. So it's kind of hard to take down, honestly.
And looking at his next pick, he picked Cresselia, which has been probably considered one of the tankiest Pokemon of all time. So he is. Straight
the HP in defense is ridiculous. It's 120 base HP, 120 base defense, 130 base special defense.
Yeah, it's a crazy Pokemon. Really good stall. So definitely going the stall route for these first 3 Pokemon. No electric type resist yet. But as I say that, his next draft is Regidrago, who resists electric. It's a pure dragon type.
And this one, it's a little bit different. It's also very, very bulky, but does not have very high defense. It's mainly attack heavy.
Yeah, 200 base attack and then 50 defense and special defense. If you compare that, if you want like a general comparison, it's got more HP than Wailord and slightly more defense and special defense. So it is a little bulkier than Wailord. And its ability is like it's like a stab for dragon, but it already has stab, so it's like stab times 2. It just makes dragon type moves really powerful. I think the problem with Regidrago that I've heard is that it doesn't get a ton of coverage moves. It gets a lot of dragon type moves. So it's harder to use for utility. It's more of like a defensive pivot that can hit hard.
I think that's a lot of what the Regis are. Is just mostly you're gonna only be able to use the typing that it is.
Yeah, that's the general idea. Although Regieleki can do some weird stuff. It gets screens. It gets some cool moves too. You can definitely use Regieleki for utility. There's a lot of electric type utility moves, which is why it has a lot more options. But Regidrago still has some good stuff going for it.
So moving into the tier 4 picks, there's another flying type. We got Braviary, and it's also normal typing, so it kind of balances out. Like it's not going to be strong against fighting. With the normal typing.
Yeah, normal doesn't really add any defensive bonuses, but it can give you some stab normal type moves, which can be helpful sometimes. Bravery has good attack and decent speed, but not great. Cofagrigus this is next pick. It gets Mummy. Pretty good ability. So if you make physical contact with it, I think it passes the ability. It doesn't do anything. It just nullifies your opponent's ability.
Which can be very helpful depending on what you're running on your Pokemon.
Yeah, some Pokemon have really good abilities, and it's really good.
Regis is very defensive as well.
Yeah, and another defensive pick here. So, Entei, fire type. Good attack. Not super speedy. I think his fastest Pokemon is Entei. Nope, just kidding. His fastest Pokemon is Rapidash Galar at 105.
So, I mean, you can tell that definitely went for defensive speed.
Yeah. Yeah, we see Flapple, Dunsparce, Phalanx, some grass coverage. I'm interested in seeing what the Dunsparce is going to do.
As far as Phalanx goes, is it the only other Pokemon besides Type Null that uses Battle Armor?
I don't know. What does Battle Armor do again?
So, Battle Armor says that it just can't be struck by a critical hit. It just is immune to criticals.
Oh. I wonder what happens when an Urshifu uses its signature move that says it always critical hits. Apparently, my head voices are telling me it doesn't crit. So, the ability wins in the end, which probably makes sense. I don't know why you would want to have an ability that doesn't work sometimes. Makes more sense for the move to not work.
Right.
But, yeah, overall, this team, super defensive. It gets Stealth Rocks and Toxic Spikes set. Cofagrigus gets Toxic Spikes, which I didn't realize. That's interesting. That makes me a little interested in Cofagrigus now. But that's super important. I think Toxic Spikes on a stall team are pretty important. His only hazard removal is Bravery with Defog.
I think that what's interesting about Galar Rapidash as well is that even with its fairy typing, it has Pastel Veil, so it can't be poisoned.
Yep.
And so there's yeah, so that's very helpful on a fairy typing.
Yep. Let's switch over to the next team here. This is the 7th team in Division 2, based on the rankings right now, which don't mean much because only one team in Division 2, or only one match in Division 2 has happened. This is the Heerlen Hawluchas, coached by Superman. And fittingly, his first pick is Hawlucha.
Yeah, I think we all knew that.
Makes sense.
He was going to be going for that, yeah.
And Hawlucha has always been a major threat in the drafts, just because it's a good typing, fighting, flying. Hawlucha's ability, Unburden, boosts its speed drastically when it loses an item. So the general idea of Hawlucha is to run an item that can be absorbed, either like a seed for terrain or some berry. And this will make its speed stat really good. It can run acrobatics. So once it's lost its item, it has a flying type move that does a lot of damage because it doesn't have an item. Because that's what acrobatics does. I think the power doubles if you don't have an item. And then it also gets close combat, so it can turn into super fast, decent attack, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it might get sword stance. So being able to boost your attack and speed makes it pretty much unstoppable, and then you can spam acrobatics, close combat. So it's kind of a setup-based Pokemon, but it gets a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, it definitely is something that you're going to want to take down quickly, if it comes out.
Yeah, so you definitely want to have resist to fighting and flying. Electric. It's hard to resist both of those types is the problem, because they cover a lot.
But electric for sure.
Electric is nice. His tier 2 pick, though, kind of covers that. Tapu Lulu. It's Grass Fairy, so it resists electric. It hits hard. It's got a lot of attack power. The reason those two Pokemon synergize so well is because Tapu Lulu can set up terrain, and then Hawlucha can run Grassy Seed, which will activate in grassy terrain, and then it boosts its Unburden, it boosts its speed and defense, and then it's really just set up now. So then it makes it super hard to kill Hawlucha. So yeah, those two Pokemon were definitely picked to synergize with each other.
Gyarados is his next pick, which just a very good Moxie sweeper.
Yep. Oxy and Intimidate, two really good abilities. Water Flying kind of adds to his electric type problems. Also another physical attacker. So far he's got 3 physical attackers. So defense will help against this team for sure. Skarmory, utility usually. Really bulky in defense. It can set up spikes. Yeah, it can run spikes, Stealth Rock, Defog. It gets Brave Bird, Roost. You can run a bunch of different things on it. You can run Rocky Helmet to deal with physical attackers because of its massive defense. And you can run Leftovers to give it more survivability. It's one of my favorite Pokemon, I think.
Still flying, so still have the electric.
Yes.
Weakness.
Another electric weakness.
And that continues with the next Pokemon as well, Araquanid, which is water typing. So again, more electric.
Yes, although Araquanid's very special defensive based, so
yeah,
it can usually tank electric type moves better than other Pokemon. Because most electric type moves are going to be special. If you're dealing with a physical electric typer, you might have problems with Araquanid.
And then finally, we have a ground type with Crocodile. And it's actually a really good ground type too. And moving on is another dark type as well, but it goes back to flying again with Moltres Galar.
Yep. It has pretty good special defense. And it's got an ability, Berserk, which is really good. I think it's the special attack equivalent of Moxie.
And this is actually like one of the only special attackers on this team.
Yeah. So pretty important. Although it's not great special attack, it's 100. But once you get the Berserk boost is when it actually starts doing some damage.
Yep.
So probably an important Pokemon to have. We'll probably see it a bunch against teams that don't have much special attack coverage. His tier 5s, Colossal, Piloswine, Shedinja. Kind of hard, actually really hard to use Shedinja in a draft setting. Because your opponent's ready for it. They're obviously not gonna let themselves get cheesed by Shedinja. Hopefully. hopefully they'll bring some kind of coverage, either sandstorm or some kind of entry hazard. There's always some way to deal with Shedinja, even if you don't have the super effective move coverage.
Colossal. I actually really like Colossal. It's got kind of a tricky ability where if it can get hit by a water move and live through it, it'll quadruple its speed.
Oh wow. Although base 30 speed isn't great, but if you invest a little speed stats, and it quadruples, then the speed is going to be really fast.
No, it's also hard for Rock Fire to live through a water type move, but if you put a sash on it or something like that, it can do some damage.
That's true. I've seen it work a little better in like doubles, where you can use a weak water type move on your own Pokemon and then boost it up. Kind of hard to get Steam Engine to work in singles, but we might see it. And then Piloswine gets Stealth Rocks, can run Eviolite, so more defensive bulk. So he has some electric coverage here. Although a lot of his strong Pokemon, like a lot of his higher pick Pokemon, are going to be weak to it.
As we're seeing pretty much across the board, there's like special attack, special defense is pretty low.
Yeah. In general, he has a lot of physical attackers.
Moltres being pretty much the only special attacker.
Yeah.
As far as like coverage moves and stuff like that, doesn't have a lot of hazard removal, but he has a lot of like hazards that he can set, being spikes, stealth rock.
He even gets sticky web.
Yeah, with the Requinid, yeah.
Which can be a pretty good help to this team, because it's not very speedy in general. Sticky webs can definitely help Pokemon that are decently fast, but not super fast, like Moltres. I think Moltres, with sticky web set up, could be a real threat. We'll go to the last team now. The Kansas City Krabbys, coached by Remedy.
And her tier 1 pick was Heatran, which it's definitely a good typing, Fire Steel, with Flash Fire, so it'll just absorb that steel weakness pretty well. Definitely a special attacker.
Yep, real good special attack, but it also has a lot of both.
Well, yeah, it has a high defense and special defense at base 106, so it doesn't matter what it gets hit with, it'll resist it pretty well.
Yeah. I often see Heatran not just being used as like a special attack because of its kind of lackluster speed. It often fits into like more of a utility mixed attacking role. Not mixed attacking, but utility, but can also hit hard. It's like it can bring stealth rocks. It has moves like Taunt, so it can kind of stop Pokemon who want to try and set up against it. It can just kind of hit hard against them. It has a lot of sets it can run, which is nice for draft, because you don't know exactly what it's going to bring.
It can also run Lava Plume, which just has a 30% chance to burn the opponent.
Oh wow. How
and,
strong is Lava Plume? Must be.
It's like 80 power, but 100% accuracy. So, like when it hits, that's just an extra 30% chance that it's gonna get burnt.
Yeah. Zapdos Galar. I've heard things about this Pokemon. Yeah, that Pokemon, very neat. I haven't seen much yet because it's new. It's a new Pokemon.
Right, and also it's decently speedy as well. It's got that Roadrunner look to it.
Definitely a threat to watch out for, I think. Then Mimikyu.
Always,
always a solid Pokemon.
Yeah.
I really like the Ghost Fairy typing.
Ghost Fairy is good. Disguise obviously comes with its own Focus Sash. Well, and not really a Focus Sash. It just ignores the first damage it gets.
Yeah, they nerfed it a little in Gen 8, where he takes a little damage now. I think he takes like maybe a tenth, but he's still really good. I think.
Yeah.
He gets Swords Dance, Shadow Sneak. He gets Close Combat. Maybe not, but he gets Play Rough. He gets a lot of good moves.
Yeah, definitely a more physical attacker, which is strange for a Ghost Fairy typing, the physical attacks. So I mean, that's where Play Rough comes in.
Yeah, Play Rough, Shadow Claw.
Yeah.
Common moves that you'll see on Mimikyu.
And it's fairly defensive. It's going to be something that, because of Disguise, will have a turn to set up.
Yeah, you'll see Sword Stance a lot, because it pretty much has a free turn to set up. Toxtricity. Interesting Pokemon. He's Poison Electric. So 4 times weak to Earth.
That's not great, but
it's not great. But I don't think he's really meant to be a defensive Pokemon anyway. So his ability boosts the power of Sound Moves, which makes him it boosts his kind of mediocre. I mean, his special attack stat is decent, 114. But with that ability, it's going to make it a bit stronger. And it also apparently gets Shift Gear, which will boost its kind of lackluster speed. So I think the idea with Toxtricity is to set up and sweep. Set up and sweep pretty much with Shift Gear, and then using your sound-based moves. But yeah, so far on our team, 4 Pokemon and already 8 unique types. Pretty good draft, I'd say, so far.
Yeah.
Decent balance of attack and special attack.
Mm-hmm. Zapdos wasn't the only Galar bird that she took. Also drafted Articuno Galar.
Oh yeah. And this is Psychic Flying, so more of a Lugia typing than the typical Ice Flying you remember Articuno being.
Right. This one, again, still special attack.
Yep.
It's adding a Psychic typing that is another unique typing. So,
yeah. Heracross gets Guts, which I think I've seen used. I've seen used before. You can like Flame Orb this thing, and it makes it really strong.
I mean, it's already got pretty high a base attack.
Yep.
So it would be definitely a physical attacker,
which is good for this team.
And Heracross,
there's a really good balance between attack and special attack on this team, and pretty good type coverage as well.
And Heracross has decent speed. Not super speedy or anything, but it'll. It's not slow by any means.
Yeah. In general, this team is pretty average speed. If this team gets Sticky Webs, they'd be really good for it. I don't think they do.
No.
So, a speed control here would be pretty nice. I'm sure you can get Tailwind onto this team somehow.
Possibly Noctowl.
Yeah. Noctowl. Maybe the Galar birds. I don't know though. Nope. Apparently it's just Noctowl that can learn Tailwind, which we might see, but
But I think that pretty much wraps this up.
Yep. There's a lot of, I think every team in Division 2 has stuff going for it.
Oh yeah.
Some teams have more obvious weaknesses than others.
Yeah, you can see through the draft that some people had clear strategies going into the draft.
Yeah, like Hawlucha's team.
Right.
With the Hawlucha and Tapu picks. Definitely have a core synergy they want to use.
But that's all of Division 2 for the Double Draft League. And I'm excited to see how the matches play out, and maybe it'll be different this time around, and there will actually be teams from both divisions that make it into the playoffs instead of all from one division.
Yeah, like last season.
When
all four of my divisions, people like got knocked out in the first round. Or not all four of them, I think. Most of us did. I'm trying to remember now. Okay, my head voices are saying all four of us lost. So our entire division got wiped out in the first round of playoffs. Hopefully we won't let that happen. I think either me or you or both of us will get to playoffs, and then we can defend our division.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this season.
All right. I think with that, we'll sign off here.
Yeah.
See you all in the future weeks. See you all in the future weeks.
I hope you enjoy all the matches.